What's up, students? Good to see you again at Life Group. To start this week, I've got a little treat for you. I'm not going to give you any context beforehand, though, so just watch it and see what you think.
Baby, to be number one, you got to raise the bars.
Kicking and scratching, grinding out the best.
Anything it takes to climb the ladder of success.
Working all the skills off every day. Gotta bump the competition, blow them all the way.
Caliente.
It's the walk day. Yeah, we're gonna
Pop, 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 pop to the top. Slip and slide and ride that rhythm.
jump and hop, hop till we drop and start again.
Skip, stop, stop, pop like a mop. Scoot around the border. Moving to the groove till the music stops.
Do the pop, pop, pop to the top.
Don't ever stop. Pop to the top.
Gimme, gimme, shimmy, shimmy, shake some booty and turn around.
Flash
Smile in their direction, hustle.
to the hustle.
Yeah, we're gonna
Pop, 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 pop to the top. Wipe away your inhibition.
this song stop, do the run and strut yourself. Pop, 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 shimmy to the top. Going for the gold free.
Keep stepping out there, but just won't stop.
Till we reach the top.
Walking to the top.
Yes, that is me. I was about your age when this video was taken performing the song Bop to the Top with my friend Shay at a music showcase. Now, I will say my singing skills did drastically improve from that point forward, and I did musical theater all throughout high school. If you're lucky, you may even get to hear me perform Defying Gravity someday. Nonetheless, I want you to think back to that clip of me you just watched, and I want you to imagine that you are the one planning that scene, right? You're picking out who would sing, you're planning the choreography, finding the music, all of that. I want to say, let's say you had two groups to pick from to perform that song. The first is me and my friend Shay, two random high schoolers, and the second is Taylor Swift and Justin Bieber. If you're gonna pick based off of who would actually do the best, who would you pick? The correct answer, whether you like them or not, is Swiftie and Biebs, right? I mean, they're professional singers and performers, right? Why would you not at least ask them before trying to choose the random high schoolers? You want to choose the professional singers. While this may seem like a random story, it actually is connected to our lesson for tonight because we find something similar happen between Jesus and a paralyzed man. So I want you to turn with me to John chapter 5 and we'll be reading verses 1 through 9. Go ahead, I'm going to give you 30 seconds to turn there. All right, let's read the passage. John chapter 5, verses 1 through 9. Sometime later, Jesus went up to Jerusalem for one of the Jewish festivals. Now there is in Jerusalem near the sheep gate a pool, which in Aramaic is called Bethesda, and which is surrounded by 5 covered colonnades. Here a great number of disabled people used to lie, the blind, the lame, and the paralyzed. One who was there had been an invalid for 38 years. When Jesus saw him lying there, and learned that he had been in this condition for so long, he asked him, "Do you want to get well?" "Sir," the invalid replied, "I have no one to help me into the pool when the water is stirred. While I am trying to get in, someone else goes down ahead of me." Then Jesus said to him, "Get up, pick up your mat and walk." At once the man was cured. He picked up his mat and walked. So Jesus heads to Jerusalem. And while he's there, he goes to the pool of Bethesda. Now, this is not a pool like you guys think of a pool, right? when you guys think of a pool, you think of bathing suits, sunscreen, Josie Ankney doing a massive cannonball, and Brady Foster doing a belly flop. Right? That's not what the Bible means when it's talking about the pool of Bethesda. It was a pool of water, but it was surrounded by a stone wall and an overhang. So the sun just shone on the pool itself, and there were places to sit in the shade. And the people who hung out at this pool were not kids wanting to swim, but people who were sick. Right? People who were blind, deaf, paralyzed, or had a disease. And they hung out there not to have fun, but because there was a superstition that the waters had healing powers. So this is the scene that Jesus enters into, and he approaches a lame man, which means a man who could not walk. And Jesus finds that this man has been lame for the past 38 years. I mean, that is almost half of Mr. Clint's age. Just kidding, he's not that old. But it's still a really long time, right? And Jesus, he comes up to this guy who can't walk and hasn't been able to walk for 38 years. And he says to him, "Do you want to get well?" Now, Jesus' question, it seems a little weird and insincere at first. Like, imagine if you walked up to someone who just got hit by a car and you were like, "Did that hurt?" Yeah, of course that hurt. And with this guy, of course this guy wants to get well. Jesus' question, though, it's not insincere. Why? Because Jesus, he actually has the power to make the guy well. Oddly enough, though, when we read, the man doesn't really answer Jesus' question. Jesus asks him, "Do you want to get well?" And this is what he says. He says, "Sir, I have no one to help me into the pool when the water is stirred. While I'm trying to get in, someone else goes down ahead of me." The lame man responds to Jesus not with a yes or no, but with an excuse. An excuse of why he couldn't be healed. See, this man had already decided his fate, that he would never get to the water in time to be healed, so he was just not going to be healed. Little did he know that he was talking to the one person in all the universe who actually could make him well. And although the man lacks faith, Jesus still heals him. Now, this story displays a couple of different things that we need to learn. Number one, Jesus holds everything in his hands. Right? We have talked about how Jesus is the Son of God and he is all powerful. He displays how he holds all things in his hands here by miraculously healing the lame man. We should walk away from this story thinking, wow, Jesus has the power. There's a second point though. We are a lot more like the lame man than we might think. In basic terms, the lame man had a need. And Jesus had the power and ability to provide for that need. But the man doesn't ask Jesus for help. Now, we can chalk that up to ignorance maybe. You know, he didn't know maybe who Jesus was. But we don't have that. Like, we're not ignorant of who Jesus is. We know who he is. So if we know who Jesus is, that he has all power and can do all things, why do we struggle to ask him about those things? The big idea that I want you to take away from today is this, and you can write this down. Jesus holds all things in his hands, so we should go to him in prayer about all things. See, we've been talking about how our beliefs fuel our actions. We see this present in the story, right? The lame man believes that Jesus is just some guy who can't heal him, so he does not try and ask Jesus to heal him. If we continue that line of thought, though, it shows us something about our own lives, right? If we do not take the things in our life to Jesus in prayer, we show that maybe we don't really believe that he can handle them, or that he cares about them, or that he can really do anything about them. But that's not true. 1 Peter 5, verse 7, it says this about the Lord. It says, "Cast all your anxiety on him because he cares for you." Other translations say, "Cast all your troubles, all your worries, etc." The message is clear. Give everything to the Lord because he cares about you. And this isn't just the big things. We need to do this with the small things too. When you've got a test coming up before your football game, when you can't find your socks. I mean, God cares for you. He loves you immensely. When we go to him in prayer about things, both big and small, we show that we believe that he is the one who holds all things together. So tonight for discussion, we're going to be looking at some prayers from people in the Bible and see what they teach us about trusting God and knowing He is in control. I love you all, and I will see you next week.